Welcome to the NHL Ice Guys. It's Tuesday, November 28th. Yes, we're back in our familiar schedule, our familiar position here on SBR. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. It's back to the old schedule moving forward when you've been used to it. So looking forward to being back Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, including today. We're definitely looking forward to that. Joined as always by Alex B. Smith, Andrew McInnes, and Dana Lane. We got our full roster intact, and we're going to break down the card as we always do every single day. We hit every single game. That's what makes this show, in my opinion, the best hockey betting show on the web. We're going to be looking at a special topic Alex brought up when we were talking about preparing for this show. Always in the NHL, NBA, any sport really, you're going to have teams that are going through situations where they're sort of caught in between. You know, they've been on a long, sustained championship run trying to get a title, where they've been in contention for years and years and years. And then it's starting to look like that window is closing, and it's going to be a situation where basically that team is just, from an age perspective, it's getting a little bit older. It's just from a salary cap perspective, they just don't have it in them to keep the core players that have made that team a championship contender over the years. And as a result, you get teams that are maybe on the way downward and maybe looking to rebuild. Alex wanted to bring up a couple of those teams, and also Andrew and Dana as well, if they have any on their mind in terms of teams that might be potentially about to rebuild. There's one that stands out to me like a sore thumb. I've talked about them a bit as a team that's probably on the way down, probably going to be a complete team that's going to be going younger quite a bit in the near future, and that's the San Jose Sharks. That's the team that really stands out. Still a lot of players in their 30s on that team. Pavelski, Joe Thornton, Brent Burns. You got to think that if this year does not end well for them in the postseason and they're short of their Stanley Cup goal, which has become a yearly tradition for the San Jose Sharks, there's going to be some major changes going on with this hockey club in terms of trying to get this team younger. I think once Joe Thornton is no longer a San Jose Shark, whether that's via retirement or whether that's being traded or signing with another team, that's going to signal the end for this current run that the San Jose Sharks have been on. And San Jose is one of those teams, they're caught in between. I think they really do want to rebuild, but they also don't want to throw in the towel on being a Stanley Cup contender at this point in time. They're sort of trying not to tell their fan base, hey, we're out of the Stanley Cup chase now. They're sort of caught in between right now. They've got a very good team still. Defensively, they're really good right now. This season, they've been good for the most part defensively, but the same problem is going to hit them as it hit other teams, as that hit them last year when they lost to Edmonton in the first round of the playoffs. It caught up to them when they played Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup final. It is a situation where teams with four lines of speed are going to challenge this slower, older hockey club and cause problems for them. Look at the losses. The Pittsburgh Stanley Cup final loss, the Edmonton one-and-done loss in the playoffs last year. How about two of their recent losses this year in the regular season? Tampa Bay, 5 goals scored against them. Vegas on Friday, 4 lines of speed. They just skate all over the ice, and San Jose struggled with that. It's the same problem that San Jose is going to have in the playoffs, which is why I know everyone's talking about they've played great defensive hockey. And Martin Jones, I'll tell you what, if he plays the way he has outside of those aforementioned 2 hockey games, Tampa and Vegas recently, he's been giving them Stanley Cup caliber goaltending for the most part this season. They're going to need that, I think, if they're going to make a sustained run in the playoffs. But San Jose, to me, is the team, stands out like a sore thumb team that probably is going to be looking to rebuild in the not too distant future and maybe turning over this core that they've had for years that have been gunning for a Stanley Cup. Alex, Andrew, Dana, any of you guys with a team in mind that you think might be on the way downward in the not too distant future? Let's start with you, Alex, since you decided to bring this up as a topic. What you got here?
Yeah, the two teams that came to my mind when I thought about this question last night, I posted up on my Twitter page, as between the Anaheim Ducks and the Washington Capitals. And you look at how similar both these teams are. Two teams that have dominated over the years during the regular season, won multiple division titles, multiple 100-point seasons. We've seen, Washington win back-to-back President's trophies, but they can't get things done in the postseason. And now you're looking at, in the situation of Anaheim, a team where a lot of their key guys are injured. We're seeing, Getzlaff, Perry hasn't been playing super duper well at times, but the fact that their depth has been tested so heavily in the last, 3-4 weeks for sure, but overall most of the season, you have to wonder where they're going to start, building back to where they were. these guys, like I said, same thing with San Jose. You have guys that are in their 30s, played a long time, a lot of miles in their body, and they start breaking down and getting hurt. At some point, you got to start looking at rebuilding. So Anaheim, the team here, they looked horrible even when they had guys that were playing, up to their talent, their full talent. Now that they're really shorthanded, you saw last night they let in 7 goals. The goaltending is now become a big issue as well. So Anaheim's the team, I see them trending downward, and I'm thinking at some point they're gonna have to pull the plug on this year and start rebuilding for the future. And you look at Washington. I was a little too quick on the plug with Washington. They've won 9 of their last 13 games. They are in a really competitive Metropolitan Division, so they still have some time and some life within obviously making a run in the playoffs this year. But you got to wonder as well. We've seen this team, if the fact that they had huge seasons and then fell down in the playoffs, how are they going to be able to compete when the team and they have to battle hard now just to even possibly get into the postseason? Is Ovechkin and company, can they keep that consistent run in the regular season and keep that energy up enough to make a deep run in the playoffs? I don't think that's going to happen. So those are 2 teams that I would think if they start trending downward, start losing before the beginning of the new calendar year, I think we might see their GMs make some moves.
All right, very good. So there's a team in Alex's mind. Andrew or Dana, before we hit today's card, either a team that you're thinking of that maybe on the way downward in the near future.
Well, for me, Ian, I mean, just kind of thinking about this really quick, it's not necessarily a team that's been, winning championships or winning divisional championships, but I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but it just seems like the Minnesota Wild to me are just an organization that's just kind of stuck in the mud all the time. And I don't know if it's because they're not making right decisions, which they really haven't in the past, draft-wise. I mean, this is certainly a team that could have had Claude Giroux, it could have had Carey Price under, it could have had Max Pacioretty through the years and passed on those guys. Or is this also a product of a team that just has not drafted high enough? I think since their existence, they've only drafted in the top 3 one time, and that was their first year. So to me, I don't know if it wouldn't be better for the Minnesota Wild just to have a atrocious year, because to me they just don't have the defensemen that they need to win championships there. I don't know. I know that they got 3 third-round picks this year, as well as their first-round pick. They didn't have a first-round pick last season. I don't know if they could package that deal or those picks to get move up in the draft at least. I don't know if they get a shot at Dahlin, but certainly you would think that they could go after Ty Smith or Quinn Hughes from Michigan. I mean, I just think they need a big-time defenseman there, and maybe there is a little bit of subtractions before you can push yourself to another level. Because honestly, they're just a team that kind of spins their wheels. They're not a team that you take seriously.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Like I said, the Wild and the fans up here have been clamoring for changes now. With their general manager, Fletcher. They're saying that the way that they spent money, the couple of years that they had it, the big contract they gave to Suter and Parise, obviously looking like, well, the Suter deal I think it was fine, but the Parise deal is obviously looking like it's not gonna pay off the fact that he's been hurt the last couple of years now. So it's gonna be kind of hard to see if they can move those guys, move those big contracts, and try to work something out. He said to quickly rebuild.
Yeah,
well,
maybe
Alex,
I was going to say maybe the apple does fall far from the tree, because Cliff, his father, was a tremendous GM. Chuck's got a long way to go to hit his father's pedigree. Let's put it that way. His father hit one slam dunk trade after another, and it came up aces for him pretty much every time. That's not been the case here with Mr. Chuck Fletcher here in Minnesota. Yeah, go ahead, Dana.
I was just going to say, I mean, defensively, if you look at him, I mean, obviously Ryan Suter is fantastic, and Brodin isn't going to give you much offense, but he's a terrific defensive player. But really, outside of that, I mean, now you're down to Olofsson and Ryan Murray on that second line. I mean, Murray's a 24-year-old guy that just really hasn't been able to crack the lineup on his own. He's a minus 36 guy in 151 career games, and I just don't see that big time defensive team, which is crazy because I mean, obviously statistically they have been good defensively, but I just kind of wonder. I wonder what they would do if you actually put capable defensemen in front of Dubnyk. I think they would go they would go a long way. But I think they're a long way from actually doing that. And outside of that top pairing, I can't trust Minnesota on a nightly basis.
Totally agree. Yeah. And if you see Bruce Boudreau last night after that dismal loss in Winnipeg, which was good for me, I was on the Jets. Boy, oh boy, he looked totally exasperated, flustered, didn't like, where's our compete? He brought out the old compete word. Brought out the old
never good.
Word. Yeah, that's never good. And he said that about his team. We stopped competing. We stopped playing 7 minutes into that hockey game. And if you watched it, he's bang on the money. That's exactly what happened. Andrew, your team and what you want to bring up here in terms of this topic.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can guess it, Ian. Just for a second here, just got to touch on the Canadians. I feel like when Alex mentioned that, it was kind of, it just kind of clicked to me. Look, it's a pretty easy one for me to talk about. As far as, let's talk about first about critical fan bases in the league. I mean, Montreal has to be up there for one of those top critical fan bases, and they're always nagging. They always want something from their team. And I think Marc Bergevin has done the worst thing possible that he could have done because, fan base like in Montreal, you don't want to go through a complete rebuild. I mean, you don't want to just completely sell the barn and just be terrible for 3 or 4 years. But at the same time, you have to slowly over time make some moves. And from what it seems over the past couple summers, he hasn't done anything. This team has almost been worse since the PK Subban trade. I thought that he brought energy to that team. Subban was pretty much their firepower. He was their really only guy that was flashy, that brought that extra edge, that extra jump to their lineup. Bringing in an older Shea Weber, couldn't put the puck in the back of the net to save his life, couldn't really hit the net in the playoffs last year. And then, you look at these top two lines for this Montreal Canadiens team. I mean, the top line for the Montreal Canadiens probably wouldn't be a second or third line on most, top 5 NHL teams. So, and then also you look at the Drouin trade. Sergachev is over in Tampa Bay having a great season so far. So it's one of those things where, how important is each player and, how slowly can Marc Bergevin make things different? Because in my eyes, a fan base is still going to be okay with you're slowly building. If they realize that Marc Bergevin is trying to make some moves, he's purposely doing some things. He's trading people away for draft picks. There's a bright future there. But Marc Bergevin isn't doing that at all. We're just kind of hovering. We've been in the same spot for a long time. And it really hurts them. And I think his biggest problem is he trusts his team so much. I mean, I always get caught ripping on Thomas Plekanec, but I really want to know why he's on that team and what he does, what he brings to that team, because he's literally just taking up space out there, and he's just a salary cap problem. I don't think he'd really be playing on any other team. Like the minutes he gets have an A on his jersey on any other team in this league. So that's my little rant, but I just want to see a little slow build from the Habs. They don't have to sell the barn all in one night, but by that trade deadline, if they're still looking as crappy as they are right now, I expect Galchenyuk to be gone.
Yeah, life sucks as you know it if you're Thomas Plekanec. You're not only playing well, you don't even look good on the ice. Who the fuck wears a turtleneck? Seriously, underneath their jersey. It's absolutely ridiculous. So his life's just, it's awful right now. It's a terrible state. You don't want to be Thomas Plekanec right now at this point in time. You don't look good. You don't play good on the ice. So what do you got going for you right now? Not a whole lot. And that Montreal team, look, last night even, they scored, one goal was in the empty net, but, they're lucky Bobrovsky gave up a soft one to Gallagher. You can count the number of times he's given up a soft goal on one hand, and then Drouin with a perfect shot on the power play. Other than that, goals for this team is just very, very inconsistent. We saw it again last night against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, yeah, Montreal definitely a source of frustration, as you can tell, for our avid Habs fan of the group, Andrew McInnes. But we got to get rolling here on to Tuesday's card. We've got a full card to break down. We're going to start with San Jose, Philadelphia, top of the card, 1-2 on the rotation. No line yet here. I'll say this right now. Philadelphia can't back them right now with this massive losing streak, which is what now, 8 games following just a brutal loss. What can you say? I mean, they have a 3-1 lead after 2 periods last night. And then just bing, bang, boom. I mean, you would think third period, let's try to establish some defensive mindset. And with a 2-goal lead, and they get into penalty trouble. Power play goal for the Penguins, 3-2. And then Brian Rust on a partial breakaway right after that to tie it up 3-3. And the Penguins end up winning it in overtime. Actually, Philly went back ahead 4-3, and it's like, oh, right, we survived the Pittsburgh onslaught. 4-3, we got the lead again, and no. Gensel ties it 4-4 with about a minute to go, and then Crosby on the deflection in overtime to win it 5-4. Ugly, painful, horrendous loss for the Flyers. Had multiple chances, multiple leads, and could not closed the deal, could not snap their losing streak. Now they're on a back-to-back situation here, facing the San Jose Sharks, who are starting a road trip here after a nice shutout win for San Jose against a red-hot Winnipeg Jets team on Saturday night. Good win for them there. San Jose are pass for me. We'll see where that line comes out. And right now, Philly's an over team. Look at the goals they've given up. They've given up 5 goals in pretty much every game the last 3 or 4. This team's got no defense right now. Penalty killing's been atrocious. The goaltending, Brian Elliott actually played well last night, but not good enough to overcome the defensive issues, not overcoming taking bad penalties at bad times, ended up costing the Flyers last night. So, yeah, it's definitely San Jose and over side and total perspective for me in that game if I'm betting it. We've got the Vancouver New York Islanders next up, 3-4 on the rotation. We've got the Islanders, as you would expect, at home, where they've been very, very good. A pretty substantial favorite here, -170 home chalk for the Islanders. The total 5.5 shaded to the over in this particular hockey game. It's not much of an opinion here for me. I mean, I know Vancouver's been feisty, and this has been. I think Vancouver is a team that, if I'm not mistaken, they have not cashed a ticket yet as a favorite. But as a dog, they've been tremendous so far this season, the Vancouver Canucks. And they've been very good in this dog roll. They've been in every single game so far on this road trip. They were in the game against New Jersey, lost in a shootout against the New York Rangers, beat the Flyers, beat the Penguins. I mean, the 2-2 on this road trip. There's nothing at all to be ashamed about with this Vancouver team. From an effort perspective, it's there every single night for Travis Green. And it's a situation where this team defensively has been decent enough, solid enough. The goaltending from Markstrom and Anders Nilsson, that combination's been a pleasant surprise for the Vancouver Canucks as well. And they're in every single game. So it's a tough out. You got to come ready to play. And Brock Besser has been the story of this team from an offensive standpoint. He's come in here and given this team a legitimate offensive weapon and threat on a nightly basis. It's to the point now where he's even more dangerous than Bo Horvat now for this Vancouver team. So that's definitely a positive for them. Any sort of infusion offensively is going to go a long way to helping this hockey team out. But the New York Islanders, to me, just at home, for some reason, they find a way to get the job done. So I'm reluctant to go against the Islanders. But at the same point in time, if you're taking a shot with Vancouver at this plus price, there's nothing wrong with that. They're in every game. The effort's been there for the most part on a nightly basis. So I do think there's a tinge of value here with Vancouver, believe it or not, at the plus price. It would be a lean for me toward the Canucks, just because I think right now they're proving on this road trip they've been in every single game and could have won every single game. So I have a chance to be in there with the Islanders. Now, this is a game that Andrew wanted to talk about, but I'm seeing Andrew's disappeared here. The Casper the Friendly Ghost is apparently taken hold of Andrew McInnes here the last few minutes here. So that's a shame. I was about to throw it to him because this is one of his games. But all right, well, if he comes back, hopefully he does. Maybe he's just having technical issues. We'll get back to him and be able to talk about that. He'll be able to talk about his opinion on that Canuck Islander game. Florida Rangers 5-6 on the rotation. No line yet for this game here. Florida coming off a good win last night against New Jersey. They're in the second night of back-to-backs. That's why there's no betting line yet for this game, taking on the New York Rangers, who have really played some good hockey of late. They had some early season struggles, but their offense is going right now. Defensively, they've played a little bit better. So is Lundqvist, but definitely a Rangers team that's starting to find their footing a little bit. All of a sudden, 10-5 as well at Madison Square Garden this season, whereas the Florida Panthers just 4-8 on the road this season. A lot of their damage has been on home ice in terms of putting W's on the board. So it's not a game I have any sort of opinion on whatsoever. I mean, Florida's in a tough spot, but the Rangers, it's going to be priced like it. Heavy home favorite here in this hockey game, facing this Florida team coming off that 3-2 win in Jersey last night. So going to be a pass for me on that game. And as far as I can see, no one else involved in that one. So we move on to Tampa Buffalo 7-8 on the rotation. Tampa Bay, again, another big favorite on the board, -170 to -180. It's pretty much in that range with Tampa. The total 6 shaded to the under in this game. And the Buffalo Sabres, I'm not going to ask them to beat, a quality hockey team at this point. They can barely beat a hockey team at this point in time. The only win was against Edmonton. And again, Edmonton was battling the flu Friday night. They've come back from that Saturday against Montreal. We talked about it on that show. Carey Price making his return to the Hab net, and they played a strong game in front of him. and beat the Buffalo Sabres that night. Buffalo, again, offensively has been a disappointment, and that's the concern for Buffalo. At least I thought they could score goals consistently, be a pretty good offensive team. Just hasn't been that way consistently for them to make up for the problems they've had at times in their own zone. The goaltending has been okay at times, but it has to be better. It has to be more consistent from the Robin Leonard, Chad Johnson combo. That's been an issue as well. So going to keep this short and simple. Not gonna. Some dogs you make a case for and want to take them. Not Buffalo here in this situation. I know Tampa Bay's, and I guess you could say one of their bigger funks so far this season as of right now. But if they don't snap out of it here, they you'd be surprised. I think Tampa Bay certainly has a chance to get the job done here and get the win on the road against this Buffalo Sabres team that's just can't get out of their own way right now. Carolina, Columbus, 9-10 on the rotation. We've got no betting line here for this one. Carolina Hurricanes coming off a real good Sunday afternoon home win against the red-hot Nashville Predators. A very nice win for this Panthers team. I'm starting to like a lot of the things I'm seeing from them. I mean, Scott Darling's been a solid netminder for them in between the pipes defensively. They have been pretty good as of late, and they're starting to get some goals going in for them. They were putting up shots on goal and registering quality chances in bunches for quite some time, and now it's starting to result in offensive production finally. They're starting to get some puck luck, Carolina, to go their way. And we know they got guys that can put a puck in the net with Ekholm and Victor Rask and Teuvo Teravainen. I mean, there's definitely some Jordan Stahl. There's weapons here on this Carolina team. Just they weren't converting those chances and shots they were getting routinely enough. They're starting to do that now. That was a good win for them against Nashville Sunday afternoon. We'll see if they can follow it up here, taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Columbus is in a back-to-back situation here. They played in Montreal last night, 3-1 loss. Really peppered the Montreal net. That was a very strong performance from Carey Price, which not that you're shocked by it, but still talking about a guy that's coming back from injury and only his second game back. And for him to be as strong as he was in that net last night for Montreal, pretty impressive. Kept Columbus at bay. Although John Tortorella did say in his post-game press conference that was not one of our better efforts last season. He's frustrated with his team's power play, which had several opportunities, could not cash in, could not get the job done last night. He said flat out after the game, I'm sick and tired talking about our power play. We're getting chances last night. We just don't finish. It's so John Tortorella having a little bit. It was a mini John Tortorella meltdown compared to some of the ones he's had in the past. Nothing compared to some of the blow-ups he's had with the media previously. But interesting game. I'm probably staying away, but doesn't look like Alex is staying away. Alex B. Smith involved with the Hurricanes and the Jackets tonight. Alex, what are you looking at in this game?
Well, yeah, I was on Columbus last night, and like I said, they got they lost 3-1, and the one goal they had, it almost came back. It was a weird play. They crashed in the net, and Carey Price goes for a poke check, loses his stick. It looks like he was interfered with, but they got the call right there on that one goal. But I feel like watching Columbus, I follow this team quite a bit. I've been on them quite often this year, and it seems like they're just trying to do a little bit too much on their power play. And it's something we've seen with a lot of different teams that have a lot of skill. Minnesota's done it. The Hawks have done it over the years. You got a lot of talented guys, and they're passing the puck. They're not taking enough shots. They're not taking enough quality shots, getting traffic in front of the net, in key moments. And so I think that's one thing that if they're going to be able to, keep pace in that division, they had a chance possibly to at least be tied or leapfrog New Jersey last night for the, in the Metro. They're going to have to simplify things offensively, get some more traffic in front of goalies, and take some better quality shots. They have more than enough offensive talent to do so, but that's the only way. They can't rely on Bobrovsky to bail them out with 40-plus saves every single night. They're going to have to get some things moving on offensively. So that's the one thing I'm going to be looking for here. Like I said, no line yet, but I will be keeping an eye. Possibly I might have some action on that game.
All right, so there we go, Carolina, Columbus, and a good note from Alex on that game. And Andrew McInnes is back with us, which means we're going to revert back to a game we've already talked about because he had an opinion on it, the Vancouver Canucks and the New York Islanders. Andrew, you've got a bet apparently in this game, so what is it? Yeah,
let's hope I don't just go over exactly what you guys spoke about. But look, this is a more or less obvious play in my mind with the New York Islanders team that we've seen fly over the total throughout the entire season so far. And, even though it's laying a little bit steeper of a price, we're looking at about -129, -130, something in that range. But just looking at this, 5 of the last 6 of the Canucks games have gone over the total. 13 of the last 17, the last 17 Islanders games have gone over the total. But a little stat here for the Vancouver Canucks, they're only averaging 2.75 goals per game. The Islanders are averaging 3.65 goals per game, but the Vancouver is averaging 29 shots and New York's averaging 30 shots. So you look at that for Vancouver, especially in 29, and Islanders for how many goals they're putting up, just 30 shots. That's really not too many, guys. But when you look back and watch the film, you look back and watch these two teams play, when you watch how the Islanders played their game, they just fire pucks at the net. But it's actually always quality scoring chances. You know, there's certain teams out there that can get 40 shots a night by just, you know, whiffing the puck at the net. But this Islanders team, they get dangerous scoring opportunities every time. You know, their fault is definitely not their offense. It's their defense. You know, this team has not been known for winning those 2-1 games. There's a reason why this team's been an over team for the star power that they have, for the excellent offense that they do have. You look at Thomas Greiss for the Islanders. He posted an 8-2-2 record, but he hosts a 3.34 goals against average and a .903 save percentage. So for a guy that's 8-2, not really the best goals against average, not really the best save percentage. So it's really just his team kind of just lighting the lamp for him, I think, and sparking the plug. So, you know, and you always talk about it, Ian, as far as trends go. I mean, why would I try and go against this right now? Both these two teams are flying over the total. They're playing good hockey. Last 3 games for Vancouver, 4-3 versus New York, 3-2 loss New Jersey, and a 5-2 win versus the Pens. For the Islanders, a 2-1 win versus Ottawa, 5-4 versus the Flyers, and another 4-3 win versus the Flyers. So, look, with the way especially this Vancouver team is looking right now, you know, I found it very interesting looking at the depth chart right now. We see the 2 Sedins on the third line. And for those 2 older guys, you know, veteran guys in the league to be on the third line to kind of accept their role, you know, you've got Thomas Vanek, Bo Horvat, Sam Gagner on that first line. And everyone kind of is playing their role right now. They're a deeper team than people might think they are, and which is why every line has that opportunity to be a scoring line and to be a depth line. So for me, this is an obvious total play of 5.5. I'm seeing 6 at Heritage right now, but I'll take the juice with the -129 over 5.5, guys.
Yeah, I definitely have had a few Islander over tickets recently. This one's interesting because Vancouver's a team, especially close to 6 here, that, you know, it's not necessarily the range I expect Vancouver to want to bet over the total here, close to 6. But, you know, they've got their offense going on this road trip. There's no question. They've put some goals in. They've also given up some to some of these teams, Pittsburgh, Philly, Jersey, the Rangers. They were involved in a 4-3 game the other day. So they have been going over the total. It's not a crazy play. It's especially Islanders over the total. Especially at home. They've just been flying over numbers, particularly at Barclays as of late. So not a bad thought there to go over. It's just a question of, can Vancouver get you over this kind of lofty plateau, which is not exactly the range you're used to seeing Vancouver totaled in by any stretch. We've got LA versus Detroit. Next game, 11-12. LA about -115, road favorite here, total 5.5 shaded to the under. Here come the Detroit Red Wings. We knew were going to show up at some point. The losing team. 4 straight losses for the Detroit Red Wings. It was a nice, you know, but they've been competitive still. I mean, you can't really, you know, shower them too much with negative comments, you know, based on their last 4 losses. 3 of them were in overtime to Colorado, the Rangers, and Jersey. Also a 6-2 loss to Edmonton in there. But no question, this team's starting to struggle a bit more defensively. It's come apart a little bit. They've given up 4 goals or more 3 of their last 4 games. That's not good. Now, can the LA Kings do something about it and test this struggling Detroit defense? That's the problem. LA's not exactly lighting the lamp. LA's on a horrendous stretch where they've scored 2 goals or less in 8 of their last 9 games. The only time they scored more than 2 goals in their last 9 games was against Florida. They shut them out 4-0. That's it. It's been 2 goals or less every other game for the Los Angeles Kings other than that. So even though Detroit's given up some goals lately, it's basically LA's can't put a puck in the net consistently right now. You got, you know, it's sort of like the unstoppable force, the immovable object, you know, colliding here with the LA offense versus the Detroit defense right now in this game. Something's got to give. What is going to give, Dana Lane? Because he's involved with the Kings and Wings here. That's got a nice ring to it. Dana, what you're looking at here?
Yeah, neither one of these teams really inspire heavy wagering, but you know, certainly when you look at Detroit, they've lost 4 out of the last 6 games. 3 of those games coming in overtime, and you know, on the LA side, I mean, obviously they haven't been great either, but perhaps that their spirits are a little lifted after that win against the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, that was a big win, and part of handicapping, Ian, as you know, is kind of identifying when teams turn the corner and start moving in the right direction. And maybe LA's there, and I'm willing to take a shot with them, and that's the case. And with that being the case, so. Look, guys, it's very simple. I mean, the best player on the ice is Anze Kopitar. Kopitar's had a phenomenal season this year. Dustin Brown has had a good year. Iafallo, I think, is going to get better offensively. He is definitely a guy that's defensively responsible. He's fantastic in the faceoff circle. So I think I just kind of envision this top line getting better as time goes on. There's also a simple factor, too, guys, that this is the first game of a four-game road trip for the LA Kings as well. And when are you your freshest? When do you play your best? Well, I tend to think that that's in your first game. So I think, and the reason is obviously you want to get off to a good start on any extended road trip. So I think that you're going to get the Kings' best effort tonight. I know that Jeff Blashill yesterday practiced dedicated a bunch of time to the 3-on-3, which is great because his team seems to lose every single one of them. But I don't think that this game gets to that point tonight. As we know that Trevor Daley will not be playing for the Red Wings tonight. So that means that Zetterberg is going to have Nyquist and Booth as his wingers. I don't love that combination for Detroit. And for that reason, we're going to go with the LA Kings minus $1.10 over the Red Wings tonight.
Yeah, there you go. You got NyQuil to relieve coughing, and you've got Nyquist hoping to relieve goal pain and scoring pain for the Detroit Red Wings here for Jeff Blashill. But yeah, I mean, for Detroit, offense not necessarily been their problem. It's been defensively lately. I mean, they've been giving up more goals than they had earlier on in the campaign. So this might be a chance for LA to get going. I like the spot for LA. I do think that. And I've said this before, that first game of an extended road trip is usually a bet on spot more often than not for me with pretty much any team in that kind of situation. Alex B. Smith, you want to talk Kings and Detroit as well. Alex, what are you looking at here?
Yeah, I'm looking the same way as Dana. I'm looking at LA in the spot. Like I said, both teams are playing brutal hockey right now overall. If you look at just wins and losses, LA has lost 9 of their last 13. Like I said, Detroit dropped 4 of their last 6. But LA said coming off a win against their rival, and then they're going a 4-game road trip now, but they're 8 of their next 11 games on the road. So this is going to be a huge test for them over the next couple of weeks. They really want to stay, in the race and things as far as the division goes. And this is a team that we've seen over time where they didn't do as well on the road at home. So this is a really big test, I think, for them tonight. And looking at, like I said, their offense has got to pick up things. They're 0-7-1 to the under the last 8 games. So that's something that you got to look at here. Like I said, if Detroit, if they can find ways to get through to quick, then it's going to be interesting to see if they can kind of keep pace. But I'm with Dana on this. I think LA will have their best effort tonight. I'm not really in love with the price. I see that I've been seeing $10, $15. I was hoping to get a plus price when that opened yesterday, but I'm thinking more money is going to come in on LA. But I think the Kings are the right side of it tonight.
All right, Kings for Alex and Dana tonight against Detroit. We've got Chicago-Nashville next up on the board, 13-14, no line. Nashville catches Chicago, second night of back-to-backs after that big win against Anaheim last night. Nashville, really, in terms of rest, they've got the edge here. They haven't played since Sunday. And that game against the Carolina Hurricanes, which was an early start, by the way. That was 1 p.m. Eastern. So it's almost like they've had 2 days and 2.5 days off, actually, because that was not a night game. That was a day game in Kakalaki on Sunday. So definitely fresher rest advantage here for the Nashville Predators at home, where they've been great once again. That Bridgestone Arena continues to be one of the stronger home ice edges in the NHL. It really is. It was like that for Nashville last year in the postseason as well, and it's carried over into the regular season. So there's a Nashville or pass spot for me from a side perspective. We'll see where this number comes out. We've got the resident Hawk fan, of course, Alex B. Smith's got to mention something about his beloved team, which exploded offensively last night and kicked the living daylights out of the Anaheim Ducks. Alex, what are you looking at here? Can they follow it up tonight in a tough spot?
I don't think they can. I mean, last night was a great game. They took advantage of a depleted Ducks team coming in home. Alex DeBrincat had the hat trick last night. Patrick Kane was really sharp, had a couple of great passes, and scored a goal as well. So the team looked awesome last night, but you got to look at who they were playing. Anaheim team that I mentioned earlier, one of the weaker teams in the league right now. Now they play their rivals in Nashville. The crowd's always going to be fired up. They can't stand the Hawks down there in the Music City. And like I said, they've been playing very well at home. And the Hawks back-to-back, they have lost 3 of the last 4 in the second night of back-to-back games. They have this last night started a stretch of 5 games in 7 nights. So now that means that Corey Crawford played last night. It's going to be Anton Forsberg in net. We've seen him struggle. He's lost 3 of his last 4 starts. So I'm hoping that we can get, a decent price, but I'm going to be looking at playing Nashville tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I like good teams off a loss. That's Nashville here in this spot, and I think they'll be ready to go. They're always going to be fired up to play Chicago, always. That's a division rival at home, no question about it. And Andrew's also wanting to talk Hawks and Predators tonight. Andrew, what are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat there as Alex and yourself, Ian. Last night in the Chicago versus Anaheim game, I actually had Chicago on the puck line, but I also had the under a little bit smaller. And looking at that, it's one of those gambles for me where I had a feeling that Chicago was going to just slap around Anaheim, but it was really just a question of how bad, how bad was it going to be? And obviously Chicago flew over that over just on their own. But like you said, Ian, I think it's a big factor, the rest. I mean, not only is it a back-to-back for this Blackhawks team, but like you said, having that being a day game for Nashville, like they're coming off around 2.5 to 3 days, pretty much we could say, of rest coming into this game. And I could say this, without a doubt in my mind, that this Nashville Predators team is one of the, if not fastest paced teams in the league. They, in my opinion, a couple years ago, were one of those teams that you would expect to win a game 2-1. And now you're looking at this team, I would expect them not to just be an over team, but to be one of those teams that's always pushing the pace. The way that their defensemen move the puck up to the forwards is one of the top in the league. Without this team's defensemen, they would not be to where they are today, and they would not have the reputation that they have today. And not to mention Dana's favorite goaltender, Rene, as well. He's been doing all right for the Predators, and I think he's really holding them in. So for me, this is an overplay. We got a backup goalie coming in for the Blackhawks on a back-to-back night, and I'm also on the Predators. I think that this is a good spot for them coming in rested. I mean, a lot of times you talk about, hey, does a back-to-back really matter? Especially for this Chicago Blackhawks team, an experienced team, are they really going to be affected by it? I think for a team, when they score that many goals in one night, when you completely slap a team like they slapped the Anaheim Ducks last night, it's almost like you don't want them to waste their goals. You don't keep kicking them when they're down. Once the game is over, it's over. So I feel like they're coming into this game right now. They scored so many goals last night. They might be kind of deflated and, didn't get to sleep in their own beds last night. They're on the road still coming into this really piped up Nashville arena. I mean, like you said, they proved it last year in the playoffs as well. This city has really adapted to this hockey lifestyle. They love it. They love their team. And this is why I think the Predators will take care of the Blackhawks tonight.
All right, so Andrew on the over and Nashville in that hockey game tonight. So, and I'll be on Nashville probably too. I'm just waiting to see the line. I want to make sure it's in my range, in my playable range. We'll see, but I'll be on Nashville probably in some form. 15-16 on the rotation. Toronto versus Calgary. We've got Calgary minus 115, slight home favorites, total 6 across the board. In this hockey game. Toronto, they've encountered some turbulence as of late, no question about that. Mike Babcock's been taking guys in, taking guys out of the lineup. There's no question. He's trying to get some balance going with this team right now. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games, Arizona, Florida in a shootout. The Carolina win 5-4. They got badly outshot in, and of course they lost at home to Washington in their last game on Saturday. But here we go again. We talked about it with LA just now. And we're talking about it here with Toronto. It's the first game of a road trip. Do you get that focus here from the Leafs? And maybe their A game starting this 3-game Western Canadian sojourn this week. They're in Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. Back-to-back games this week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We'll see if they're able to bring it. I do know one thing, and I don't like historical stuff, but man, the Leafs this has been a house of horrors for the Leafs over the years playing in Calgary. I think they've won once in their last, something like 10 games in Calgary. It's not been good whatsoever. But I do like the spot here for Toronto. Calgary's a weird team. Calgary, to me, is a team I'd rather back at home, on the road rather than at home. They've been a little bit more inconsistent at the Scotiabank Saddledome this season, just 6-5 at home. They're 7-5 on the road. So I actually lean a little bit to the Leafs here. I don't love it by any stretch of the imagination because I do have some concerns external concerns about the way they've been trending the last week or so. But Leafs at this price probably playable enough for me. Dana, you're involved with the Leafs and Flames. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I just kind of redid my power rankings the other day, and I have Calgary a little bit ahead of Toronto. I don't know. There's something about Toronto that doesn't really inspire me right now, and nothing really about Calgary that inspires me either. Except I think they're a little bit better than what people think. First of all, it's no secret I'm a huge fan of Glenn Gulletson. I talk about the way that he handles his players all the time. Any chance that I get, I love the way he lets his lines mature. He's not a guy that is going to put his lines up in the blender, as Alex says, and try to create different chemistry every single night. He kind of just lets his guys go, and he doesn't really do a lot of matchups during games or before games, and he just kind of has a lot of confidence in the lines that he rolls out there. There is a lot of talk, obviously, about and in fact, I heard somebody today saying, well, that you could make a case that Austin Matthews is as good as Connor McDavid right now, and that's obviously debatable. But you talk about Zach Hyman, you talk about William Nylander. I mean, these are guys that could certainly get a lot of publicity, but guys like Sean Monahan, Johnny Gaudreau, and Michael Furlan. I mean, these guys, have point wise at least, they're burying the top line of the Maple Leafs. And in fact, I think that Johnny Gaudreau tonight is going to have a ton of space on that left side against Nylander. I think he's a better skater than Nylander, and I think he's going to create opportunities. Even if you look at the current form, maybe not the seasonal form, but the current form for sure. Even that second line, I think, is a little bit better than Toronto's. Marleau and Kadri have had good seasons so far, but Leo Komarov has just had 1 assist. He's going to be matched up tonight against Matthew Tkachuk, which I think is an advantage for Tkachuk for sure. That line right there, to me, has had tremendous chemistry, and I think people are really overlooking how well that line as well has played over the last 10 days. So you look at the first 2 lines for Calgary, I think you're getting and offensively, at least, I think you're getting 2 lines that certainly you can rely on financially. I think Calgary's feeling good after its road trip, like you mentioned, Ian. I'd rather get them on the road than at home. But again, that first that first game factor we talked about earlier also applies to the first game back at home as well. And I think Calgary's feeling really good about what they accomplished. I think they look at this game as an opportunity to further that. You're only having to lay $1.11 on this game, so I have no problem doing that with the Flames tonight.
Yeah, that's my issue with this game from a pricing standpoint. I was looking to play Toronto, but I was hoping I'd get a plus price, not minus 105, $1.10 near even money. It's not the price I was hoping for with Toronto, and that series history scares me too a little bit. I know you can't overreact. It goes way back to when there were different coaches, obviously, with Toronto, different players, to the Ron Wilson era, the Randy Carlyle era, but still, it's a situation where Toronto's been absolutely horrendous for the most part playing in Calgary, and that's a long-term dismal track record of failure they've had there. And they've got issues right now. Nylander, for as good as he is offensively, boy, he's terrible in his own zone at times. Back-checking ability is non-existent at times for him. He has to pay more respect and appreciation for the defensive side of the game. That's all there is to it. Babcock stressed that with him over and over and over again, and he's still trying to bang his head against the wall to get Nylander to realize that as well. We're going to have to wait and see if that comes, because I think there's going to come a point in time when enough's enough, and Babcock says that's it. You got to start giving it that same effort without the puck as you do with the puck, and then maybe you're going to become the player we think you can be, the complete player we think you can be. We know the offensive talent's there for him, but that's still an issue for him playing without the puck. We've got Arizona, Edmonton, 17-18. Huge favorite is Edmonton, minus 200 on home ice. The total 5.5, shaded to the over. This is a little bit of a tricky spot for Edmonton here. We're talking about a team returning home off a long road trip, but it ended in a good note. 2-3 road trip, following a nice win against the Boston Bruins on Sunday for this Edmonton Oilers team to end that road trip. So we'll see if they're able to follow that up, even though it's a little bit of a tricky spot, that first game back home off that road trip for the Oilers against an Arizona team that, continues to struggle, continues to find ways to lose games. They had a nice little uptick on that Eastern Canadian road trip. They took down Ottawa, picked off Montreal, picked off Ottawa, picked off Toronto. Well, they returned home, lose to San Jose, and lose to Vegas on Saturday night. So they come back home 0-2 on this current homestand, on that homestand for Arizona. Now they're back on the road here tonight facing this Edmonton team. So side perspective, I'm not going to get involved either way. Total-wise, sitting at 5.5, shaded to the over. Tricky there because I do think Arizona is improved in terms of keeping the puck out of their net with Ronta back between the pipes. We do have Dana Lane, who's involved with the Coyotes-Oilers matchup tonight. Dana, what are you looking at here?
Yeah, there was a report last night that I read that Scott Wedgwood was expected to make the start. So, kind of keep in mind with that as well. That comes from a beat writer, so I have no reason to think otherwise. Look, in 4 of his 7 starts, he's allowed 3 goals or more. If he does start tonight, either way, I like the over in this, but he's actually played a little bit better on the road than he has at home, and his 3 home starts, his save percentage is a little bit under 88% or 880. So that's certainly not a save percentage that it begs me to play the under. Cam Talbot's been okay as of late. He did play pretty well against Boston. Didn't face a ton of shots against the Bruins. Same for Detroit. Gave up 6 goals to Detroit and 4 to St. Louis. So that's really his last 5 games where he's kind of been up and down, not as reliable as we've known Cam Talbot to be. I thought the defensive effort in front of Talbot has been pretty good. Hasn't been great. I think they can be better. So maybe we're going to ride that trend a little bit as well. They haven't been bad overall this season, but I think in the last 5 or so, I don't think that they've played well in front of Talbot. So I think that that's something to kind of put in there as well. This is a must-win for sure for Edmonton. I don't think it's just a must-win. I think it's a must-crush the Arizona Coyotes tonight to get this season moving forward. And Connor McDavid has been sensational this season, but as everybody knows, there's absolutely no help. And maybe the Bruins game was kind of a prelude to what's going to happen, because this is, one of the few times where Connor McDavid didn't show up and they didn't score, and Edmonton was able to win. And perhaps he's going to start getting some help from Lucic. Perhaps he's going to start getting some help from Camilleri, who played pretty well against Boston and enabling them to win. Lucic does have 8 points in 10 games, so he's turning the corner as well. Nugent Hopkins has 8 and 10, so you kind of see where a few of these guys are starting to turn the corner a little bit, starting to crank it up a little bit. Maroon is absolutely giving McDavid nothing, so you have no idea what you're going to get from him. But Draisaitl's starting to play well, at least offensively. They still give up a ton of shots, which is great, because I think this game is going over the total, and I think it's going over the total of 5.5 quite easily.
All right, over 5.5. And I'm more interested in that over if Wedgwood is confirmed. And I think you are going to see him, because Ronta, I'm reading it up right now, did not even join the team on this trip to Edmonton. He might join them later on in the trip, but he's definitely not playing tonight. It's going to be Wedgwood, unless they go with a kid that came in emergency last year, I remember, and won a game for them down the stretch. And Marek Longhammer is the guy that's behind Wedgwood in the depth chart for Arizona in terms of their goaltending. So unless Longhammer gets a start, I don't think he will, though. I think it'll be Wedgwood here in this game. Wedgwood's actually capable, but he's also one of those guys. He was like this in Jersey as well when he got those starts there in New Jersey. He's very up and down. You don't usually get that consistency with him. And Edmonton's, they bottomed out against St. Louis. They really did. That was ugly for them last week, but they bounced back with a good win against Detroit. All hands on deck. They showed up. They showed they've got some spine to them. The Buffalo loss, not good, but they were really riddled with the flu going into that game that night, and then they bounced back from that to beat Boston. So positive signs. Slow little baby steps, I understand, but positive signs for Edmonton. 2 of their last 3 to end that road trip they won. We'll see if they can carry that over to tonight. Dana likes the over. And we wrap up with Vegas-Dallas to end the night, 19-20. Vegas minus 110, total of 6. This is my best bet, so I'm not even going to talk about this game. if you know if you know what I've been talking about lately, you know where I'm going here with this. But this is my best bet. Andrew and Dana and Alex, for that matter, not involved. So we're going to go right to best bets to wrap up the show for this Tuesday. We're pressed for time, so we'll go right to it with best bets. Let's start with Dana, your best bet for the Tuesday night card.
I love Glenn Gulletson. I think he's going to have these guys ready to play tonight. First game back after a road trip. I definitely, when you look at the matchups, I definitely see where Calgary has the advantage in a few spots. As you said, I don't love Toronto going on the road, so especially to Calgary. So we're taking Calgary minus $1.11 over the Leafs.
All right, Calgary, best bet for Dana. Andrew McInnes, best bet.
Yeah, look, just heading back to that Vancouver Canucks versus New York Islanders game. Look, I know that the Islanders have been scoring well. I know they've been playing really great hockey, but to look at this Canucks team and see that they've hit the total over in 5 of their last 6 games, that's a big deal for me with this young Canucks team. But the over has hit in 7. The over is 7-2 this year at home for the Islanders. And when you look at that, you might think it's looking too into it, but a lot of teams play a lot better at home or play a lot better on the road. And for me, to look at that 7-2 record, I'm loving this over 5.5 Vancouver versus New York Islanders.
All right, Vancouver versus New York Islanders over the 5.5 at about minus 130 for Andrew McInnes. That's his best bet. Alex B. Smith for Tuesday night best bet.
Best bet. I'm rolling with the LA Kings here. Like I said, this is a big test on the road. Open up, like I said, what's going to be a substantial set of games away from the Staples Center, and taking on a equally struggling Detroit team. I think the LA should come out with a really sharp effort here tonight at a decent price or at a pick 'em price. So I'm going with the LA Kings.
All right, LA Kings, best bet for Alex B. Smith. And I know that I'm going to the Dallas-Vegas game, and I know that the Dallas Stars are starting to put things together and play some better hockey as of late. There's no question about that. But the fact remains, when you look at this line for this particular hockey game, you're looking at a Vegas team 15-7 on the season, 9-1 at T-Mobile Arena. Teams with that profile cannot be pick 'em, cannot be even money on home ice. They can't be. They can't be. Okay, so this is value again with this team at home, as it's been all season long. We're going to go right back to the well. I know Perron banged up. I understand that. But, they showed again against Arizona. Injuries, goaltending injuries up front to the forwards. Doesn't matter. We persevere. We keep working. We keep grinding. And we find a way. They did it against Arizona, did it against San Jose in that last home game, and I expect them to do it again tonight. The Vegas Golden Knights, we're going with them. The Knights, minus 110, rotation 20. Vegas, minus 110, my best bet for Tuesday night on the ice, guys. That's going to wrap it up. That's our show for Tuesday. Great show as always. Thanks for tuning in. Reminder, sportsbookreview.com. Check out that website for live odds, free picks, free articles. Dana Lane has NHL articles daily there. Check out the links below the video for all the SBR social media platforms. Give the show a thumbs up if you liked it. We'll be back on Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern time for another edition of the Ice Guys. And Andrew and I will be back at 11:30 this morning for our season finale of the CFL 3-Down Breakdown. It's the last show of the season. We put a little bow, nice little bow on the season because it's Christmas time. Holidays are right around the corner. We're going to wrap up the CFL season and also look ahead to 2018. So that's coming up at 11:30. Us at the Ice Guys, we're back on Thursday. Until then, for Andrew McInnes, for Dana Lane, for Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Tuesday night hockey card. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll talk to you again on Thursday.